So when we left off, Henry was giving Ribsy a bath in the bathtub. And if you remember, the name of this chapter is The Pale Pink Dog. And so we will see what happens to Ribsy, when he's entered in this contest after Henry gives him a bath in his mother's bathtub. Thanks, Mom. I'll clean it up. Excuse me, please. Henry, I'm afraid you didn't eat much breakfast. I hope Ribsy does win a silver cup, but I wouldn't count on it too much if I were you. He is, after all, just a mutt. He isn't a mutt, Mom. He's a mixed breed, and I know he's a better dog than any dog around here. Come on, Ribsy. Ribsy followed Henry into the bathroom. When Henry began to run the water into the tub, he looked at Henry and then at the water. Then he tucked his tail between his legs and started to sneak out of the bathroom. Oh, no, you don't. Henry grabbed him by the collar. He put his arms around Ribsy's middle and lifted him into the tub. Ribsy was heavier than he had been that day about a year ago when Henry carried him into the bus. Because this was a special occasion, Henry didn't use flea soap. He used his mother's shampoo. Ribsy whimpered. Henry rubbed the shampoo on him and worked it into a thick lather. He rubbed and scrubbed. The suds foamed thick and white until Ribsy, except for his face, was hidden in mounds of thick lather. Now you ought to be good and clean, said Henry. He scooped up handfuls of water from the tub and poured them over the dog. He poured and poured, but the lather only grew thicker. If only he hadn't used so much shampoo. He tried mopping Ribsy with his washcloth. That helped, but it still wasn't fast enough. He had an idea. He moved Ribsy around so that he faced the end of the tub and turned the shower on him. Ribsy tried to jump out, but Henry held him. Ribsy raised his head and howled. Henry, his mother called, what are you doing to that poor dog? Just washing him, answered Henry, and turned off the shower. Ribsy shook himself. Henry used 4 bath towels on him, but he still wasn't dry. Ah, well, it's a warm day. Maybe the sun will dry him off, thought Henry. He took one of the towels and hastily wiped it over the floor and tub. Henry, I have to go downtown this morning. I hope you and Ribsy have good luck at the dog show. Mrs. Huggins had her hat on, ready to leave. Thanks, Mom. Say, have you seen the leash? It says on the entry blank, all dogs must be on a leash. I think you left it in the basement, Mrs. Huggins said as she went out. Henry ran down to the basement. At the bottom of the stairs he found the leash. At least it had been a leash once. Now it was chewed into a half-dozen pieces. Henry looked hurriedly around for something to use in its place. If only he had more time. The only thing he could find was his mother's rainy day clothesline. After climbing up on an apple box to untie it, he ran upstairs and fastened one end to Ribsy's collar. It was longer than a leash, but it would have to do. When Henry went out on the front porch, he saw Beezus and Ramona coming down the street. Beezus was carrying a squirming black puppy that kept trying to lick her face. Puddles, you stop that, she commanded, and set him on the sidewalk. Puddles was wearing a red bow on his collar, and Henry was pleased to see that Ribsy wasn't the only dog with a rope for a leash. Come on, Henry, we better hurry, said Beezus. Ribsy sniffed at the puppy and decided to ignore him. Hey, look, exclaimed Henry. There's Mary Jane and Patsy and Robert and Sassy up there ahead. We'd better run. When they reached the park, Henry saw that already there were hundreds of boys and girls and dogs there ahead of them. Henry had never seen so many dogs. There were Boxers, Great Danes, Pekingese, Arendales, Cockers, St. Bernards, Pomeranians, Beagles, Setters, Pointers, and just plain dogs. Some, like Puddles, were wearing ribbons on their collars. Some wore sweaters, and some had on little paper hats. A loudspeaker on a sound truck blared out. Take your entry blanks to the registration desk by the tennis courts. Come on, Ribsy. We'll have to find out what happens to Ribsy tomorrow. Do you think he's going to win the contest?